Hello, welcome to Cybersecurity Unlocked. If you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave a comment. It really helps to give the channel a push. Plus, you'll also get the latest updates. I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Sandip Wadje. He is a career cybersecurity consultant. He has spent the last 6 years with BNP Paribas in London, where he is now the head of emerging technology risk. Hi, Sandip. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming down. It's great to see you.
Likewise. It's good to meet you in person, finally.
Yes. We've been talking for a few years now, so yeah, it is really good to meet you in person. So so obviously we're just sort of talking about your career, how you got to where you are. I think there's a lot of people that would really benefit from your journey, how you made the transition from consulting to client side, and your sort of 6-year journey with such a prestigious tier 1 bank. So yeah, I mean, let's sort of kick off with that. I mean, how did you make that move and that transition, and what were the reasons behind it?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. I think it's always good to share the bits and pieces of the journey so that others can learn from, probably the lessons learned, etc. So just to start with, I'm currently with BNP Paribas. I'm focused more on the emerging technology risk aspects of cyber and technology. I dive into 3 domains, focused on cloud, AI, and API. Also a lot on digital assets, and lastly on the topic of threat intelligence, and particularly collaboration within European financial institutions on the topic of threat intelligence. In terms of my career journey, it's quite interesting actually. Not many people know that I actually started as a government officer in India, and I joke quite a lot about it, and it's in public domain. The government officers get paid £200 a month, and starting from there, coming here in a tier 1 bank has been quite some journey actually. So I think it has two parts. One is when I decided to switch over to cybersecurity in 2005-06. That time I ended up doing a lot of research on what certifications I should pursue. I did CISSP in 2005, CISA in 2006. That helped me get more into on the consulting side of things. And then I think I gradually started focused more working on financial services clients when I was working at KPMG, but also when I had my startup experience with Risk IQ, and also on the technology services side with SecureWorks and BT. That left me thinking that maybe it's not a bad idea to essentially kind of move into the industry side and apply the lessons learned, because what you have done is you worked with 20-30 financial institutions, traveled across Europe, learned how different projects and initiatives are rolled out, and then maybe it's a good idea to kind of apply that in one place in terms of making an impact. And considering the diverse set of portfolio I have currently, the focus I have, if you look at someone who is trying to focus on cloud, AI, digital assets, and threat intelligence, it's quite breadth of topic you have to handle from a day-to-day basis. And it has really helped, because I went through that journey, and then I was able to essentially apply that where I am today in terms of my current roles and responsibilities.
Right, that's awesome. Okay, and and just going back to the sort of the certifications and how you made that sort of transition into cyber, would you say that CISSP is really this kind of the staple certification that most cybersecurity practitioners should acquire, or anybody that's looking to maybe pivot into security, that would be the best one?
Yeah, back then, I think, I'm talking about 2005, and it's very important, again, to just, while we are doing this conversation, to touch base on some aspects. One is, I was like 5 years into my job as a government officer. I had an office assistant, I had 5 people working for me, I had a big office. There was no need for me to do anything technically. And then a government job is considered as a very safe job back in India. What I'm trying to say is keeping your eyes and ears open and doors open in terms of opportunities. So a couple of guys from Isaka came to my town. I was not in a big city back then. And then they were talking about CISA certification. That got me interested. What is CISA? Then I found CISSP,
Yeah.
and that's how then I pursued CISSP. There are other certifications as well. For example, CCIE, particularly if you're a hands-on techie person, OSCP is not bad at all, particularly those who want to do hacking, red teaming, etc. But back then, CISSP covered all the aspects of cyber, and it was considered very prestigious. So that's what I went for. These days, I think the options have evolved. There is CISA. Again, ISACA has got into a lot of other certifications which competes with, CISSP, for example, CISM. So options are there, but I would say still today, a lot of people look at CISSP as like that baseline in cybersecurity in terms of getting into cybersecurity career. But the fact is, I would not have known about CISSP if one of my clients, Anil Joshi, he called me and he said, "Hey, do you want to come and join me for this event?"
Yeah.
And that one event led to so many other things, and
that set the path.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I tell people: is network, keep your options open in terms of meeting new people and new opportunities, because that's will it land you in different opportunities in your career.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And how did you kind of alter your? Because I being in the recruitment industry myself, I see a lot of people that move from consulting into industry. I think that's probably the more common transition, rather than going from industry into consulting. Consulting, as the further up the ladder you climb, it does become more kind of commercially, orientated. How did you kind of, sort of shift your mindset from a consultant to then working for BNP, and how did you sort of alter your approach?
So it's combination of both, and I just have to play it diplomatically. So when I did work with a lot of financial services clients as a consultant, it was quite engaging in terms of the opportunities and lessons I learned. But also it left me with a feeling that I'm probably not like the BAU guy. So really, if you ask me, when I decided to move from the consulting side to the industry, the conversation was, can I pick and choose some domains that would make me happy? And I was lucky. Thankfully, I got that opportunity in my current job where they wanted to have me on board. And then they said, you know what, if that's what is your passion, and if you want to work on emerging technologies, let's make it happen. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation, but sometimes you just don't land in the exact job you want. Could be, SOC operations, could be identity and access management. But I consider myself very fortunate joining a tier 1 bank with the list of things you really want to do. With not a bad outcome at all. And that's what then every day it's new because the technology is evolving so fast. If you look at cloud, AI, digital assets, it's evolving really fast these days. So it kind of keeps you going. But yes, I think the experience helped, but the opportunity to actually ask for and get in return to ability to work on emerging technology was not bad at all.
Yeah, no, that's a great hack. And I think anybody, whatever the industry is, if you can link your passion to your career, then you've kind of got it made really, and you can enjoy going into work every day. I mean, there are a lot of people that can be very good at something, but they don't particularly enjoy it, and it's really kind of a means to an end, and they kind of get.
Indeed. And I can just quickly touch base on, how it all came together in terms of expertise as well, because people would think like, oh, what did this guy do? I did hands-on technology rollout when I was in Ministry of IT in terms of rolling out Network Operations Center, Security Operations Center. Then I did CISSP. Fast forward, I worked for a tier 1 bank in India as well, and I had an opportunity to roll out their Asia Pacific SOC in Bangalore. And that experience left me with the feeling that there was an opportunity to do something on the SOC consulting side, which no one was doing. And I'm actually telling clients on SOC use cases, the metrics that can be reported to the executives. So when I moved from that institution back in KPMG, I started knocking doors saying, hey, what are we doing in this space? We should do something about it. That landed me with an opportunity to work for an American client. That landed me with an opportunity to work for a client in Netherlands. And then almost like established me as the SOC consulting player when I was working at KPMG. And when I moved from there and came to UK, this was done in India, by the way, I landed with identity and access management projects.
Right.
And the one thing that IAM projects do to you is you have to really brush up your plain English skills because you're working with business.
Yes.
You're going to chief operating officers and MDs and telling them why this needs to be done. So that really helped me brush up my plain English skills, and that kind of made me a better consultant. And then when I was essentially moved and doing consultancy in secure works, I had that opportunity with Risk IQ, which I had never done before because their logo was security outside the firewall. And I was like, I have done infrastructure all my life, which I just don't know how external attack surface works. So even though like my boss then in secure works, he hugged me and he said, what can I do to make you stay? I was like, you know what? I have not done this and I'm really curious to see how to do it. That landed me into the threat intelligence world with Risk IQ. So, and then, you know, one thing leads to another. So then you get this diverse set of experiences. And that's what landed me where I am today, where people ask me like, how are you able to do cloud in one day, AI the next day, and digital assets another day? It's because I managed to break out of my comfort zone. I was always ready to learn something new. And then went in that direction to learn new technologies and initiatives. And then now I am in a position to apply that in my day-to-day job.
And do you think having, you know, your sort of background in sort of SOC and threat intelligence and all of the stuff that sort of sits, you know, broadly within the, you know, sort of cyber defense center, now operating as a cyber security executive or risk practitioner and, you know, dealing with, you know, C-suite, do you think that gives you an advantage having had that background?
Absolutely. It does, because then you have the whole spectrum of experience, right from identity and access management, threat intelligence, security operations. You are then able to catch up in terms of the risk profile and how essentially different metrics that could be potentially reported to the C-suite. It does help, because I've noticed a trend, particularly over the last maybe 7 or 8 years, where sort of CISO positions, as an example, a lot of the time they were taken by people that have come from maybe more of a traditional risk and audit background and then progress into a CISO, whereas that there is a shift, I think, happening where people that really understand the technology that underpins, you know, what a good cyber defense center looks like, and can actually, they're much closer to the problem from a technical perspective, and they can actually translate the context for board or C-level. Yes, I think, and then there are different approaches in the industry in terms of, you know, who is fit to do a particular role, whether it is CISO or whether it is from operational risk perspective. There is that debate always comes up, by the way, in every conversation is, and it will probably get more regulatory attention as well. Because if you look at, for example, you need rigorous training and certification to become a doctor. You can't get your, you know, pilot's license without doing certain number of hours. So why should you be in a chair and run a, you know, multi-million, billion enterprise, which is all driven by computers now, potentially by AI in next 5-10 years, without any rigorous qualification and testing? So I think it's about time where we will land with some sort of approach where you really have to ask what makes, you know, a good cybersecurity executive in terms of qualifications. We can't be sitting outside and saying, and this is a technology issue as well, by the way. So we can't say outside and say scrutiny doesn't apply to technology as an industry. It will eventually happen because the more it gets automated, and we all seen this in Hollywood movies, and some of and I'm a big fan that whatever you see in Hollywood movies eventually happens. Look at COVID-19. So I think we better prepare for it in terms of some level of essentially rigorous scrutiny and experience on the technology side for someone to actually run a technology enterprise. So it will. I think. That has to happen in the long run. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, something else I was really keen to sort of tap into your sort of knowledge on this topic. I've recruited quite heavily at that kind of ED, MD, C level, and in some cases sort of VP level in the banking environment, whatever that would translate to in whichever bank that we're talking about. And one of the common, I guess, challenges or bugbears that I get from candidates is they're not able to make that leap from D to an MD or a VP to an MD, whatever, whichever bank we're talking about. What would you say are the key attributes? And this is, I appreciate the answers might be quite sort of generic, but it'd be good to get your sort of insight into that because you're probably involved in maybe some of the interviewing for people that are going from ED or D to an MD. What are the sort of the key attributes that you sort of tend to look for?
Well, I'm exceptionally upfront and blunt person in certain matters. When I came to this country, I was extremely good subject matter expert, and I took a lot of pride in it. It took some time to understand that it's not about subject matter expertise. A lot of things that come with subject matter expertise. So it's not easy. It's not an easy transition. And I remember my first day on job, the partner gave me a book called as How to Watch English, as to how to understand English people and how to work with them in terms of, day-to-day business. So I think soft skills are really important. Your subject matter is given.
Yeah.
You have that role because the hiring manager or the institution, they know that you know the business, you know the technology. That's why you have the job. But what else essentially comes on top of the job is key. So first is communications, extremely important. Plain English. Mm-hmm. And remember, I'm in a large multinational institution with quite versatile group of stakeholders where English is not the first language. Mm-hmm. And then you're dealing with people where there can be different interpretations of English. So you better than clarify in plain English different aspects of cybersecurity, what it means to them. So plain English is key. Second is expectations management. It's very, very important. Is a lot of the times, and this is a combination of things, by the way, is upward delegation, downward delegation, and etc. You can find all of that in management books. Yeah. But all it comes down to setting right expectations with your team and your boss, and then handling it on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And that's very, very important. And third and most important, and what defines you as a leader, and it's universal, whether it is in corporate or politics or anywhere, is how you deal with crisis. Because that's where your true behavior comes up, right? And when you're dealing with crisis and you're not willing to learn and you're being defensive, that's where usually I see people get caught, and then they are not able to essentially move forward with their career, because from management perspective, the most important thing is this individual ready to learn and move on? Yeah. But if you are not essentially able to learn and then say, it was not my mistake, it was someone else's problem. Yeah. That's where then, and doesn't matter whether you're a school headmaster or you're a cybersecurity executive, the same principles apply. Yeah. Is you want individuals to own and then move forward. And during all this, whether it is plain English, whether it is expectation management, whether it is dealing with crisis in your day-to-day jobs, it's a constant learning. Yeah. What are you doing to learn in these areas? How to be a better communicator, how to be a better delegator, and how manage expectations of people around you, and accepting the fact that things will not go always, and be ready to then handle those situations, because that's when you're on the watch. Everyone is looking at you, how you deal with it, and that's what decides your next promotion. Yes. Because people will say, he handled that crisis very effectively, and I think this, or he or she, and this individual now is ready to go to the next level. Okay. So there is no secret sauce. It's combination of individual behaviors that go along with to make you a good executive, and then get you that essentially promotion. Lastly, when you don't get it, I see a lot of people get into maybe I should look out, maybe I should go somewhere else. Yeah. And I give this analogy of, changing the train tracks. I tell people what happens when you try to do this because you're not happy with your boss or not happy with your institution, and you say, I will make it better somewhere else. If a train has to change the track, it has to slow down and accelerate again.
Exactly.
So what you are doing is, by changing the job, you're not making yourself any big favors, because you're essentially having the same impact of reducing the speed and accelerating the speed. So my suggestion is, if the promotion doesn't come your way, wait for it and then make sure that you're having right conversations to kind of go in that direction.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the time it's how you respond. And like you say, if you just sort of change tracks, to use your analogy, you lose all of that kind of credit that you've built in the bank or organization or wherever it is, and you've got to essentially start again from scratch.
Absolutely.
So okay, that's interesting. So key takeaways: communication, managing expectations, and managing a crisis, or how you respond to a crisis.
How do you respond to it? Yeah.
How do you get that balance though between taking ownership for what was potentially what was your mistake and what was potentially a lot of the time people are looking to, I guess, sort of covering tracks, but I guess it's difficult to get that balance right, isn't it?
It is difficult. It is difficult, and then I think I'm sure sometimes you are in an environment where it is not easy to kind of practice that behavior. But if you stand your ground and if you stay true to I know this thing went wrong. I know this is where probably I'm willing to take responsibility, and that's where, for example, integrity comes to play. Is like just because you see bad behavior at workplace and you're saying, oh, okay, brush under the carpet and put it on someone else. It's not going to help you in the long run become a good leader anyway. No. So you have a good balance of it. The part that you are dealing with, own it and say, you know what, it doesn't matter if it 2 times more work for me because someone else is not ready to do that. I will do it, but I will own it and I'll get it done. And in the long run, you will see, even in not like a very friendly workplace, someone will notice. And you know what? That person will become your champion in the long run, saying, of all the 4 or 5 people, I saw this one individual who stood his ground and then say, I'm going to, own it and I'm going to deliver this. So it really, it's about having that balance. But I do understand sometimes you land yourself in situations. It's just not easy to practice.
No.
Again, considering the fact that it's not about the job, family as well. Because you have wife on the other line, kid is doing something else, and then you got everything in your head, and you're still trying to balance yourself at the job. So it's not easy, particularly when you're in the firing line.
Exactly. As most are in this role. Okay, cool. So now we've known each other for a few years, and throughout that time, I know that you're incredibly passionate about the digital asset industry and digital currency, cryptocurrency. What's the, if you're able to sort of share this, I appreciate you might not be able to share all of it, but what is generally the kind of the big bank sort of strategy towards digital assets?
Sure. So so first of all, I naturally landed in terms of working on digital assets as a domain because I was quite attracted to blockchain as a technology, wanted to spend time on it. And again, very appreciative in my current profile that the doors were open to say, hey, you know what, you want to do this? Go ahead and do it. So 2.5 years back, I started focusing on digital assets as an area and have networked a lot in the industry on that topic. So one is, and then I'm going to talk about publicly known initiatives, right?
Sure.
Which is much more easier to relate to. So what is happening is, particularly in terms of digital assets or blockchains, it is bringing certain benefits to the industry, and most importantly, it is driving collaboration within financial institutions. If you look at, for example, the carbon credit exchange that is getting set up in the UK, where 7 or 8 banks have come together and they said, you know what, it makes so much sense to essentially exchange information on a decentralized but trusted network where we can trade, carbon credits. And boom, that initiative is going on. But then it is part of blockchain technology, part of cloud infrastructure. But you know what? It's definitely outside the organization's perimeter. And you see that happening a lot, whether it is ESG initiatives. Banks are saying, why are we fighting the battles alone? We can share information more.
Yeah.
Similarly, pre-trade and post-trade information sharing. Banks are coming together and saying, oh, we can do this together. So there are a lot of aha moments where financial institutions are coming together, and similar things are happening. And I'm sure you've seen headlines on corporate payments and settlements where financial institutions are coming together and saying, we could do this using blockchain technology. So blockchain is acting as an enabler to drive a lot of these initiatives. And I think you have to drive that distinction between what blockchain as a technology is empowering versus all the bad headlines and everything that's going around crypto. There are two different things. They're linked, by the way, of course, because a lot of the blockchains would be public blockchains, and the regulatory clarity will come in the near future. What those public blockchain tokens are called, whether they're commodity or security, that's a different topic. But I think the collaboration within financial institutions and blockchain technology as an enabler is here to stay. And then you will see a lot more initiatives coming around. And of course, we have seen a lot on bond or security tokenization in the industry going on. So I think there will be different use cases, but the theme is very clear that we need to work together to solve a problem and use blockchain as a technology. And I think that adoption will continue to grow.
Great. Okay, that gives us some hope then.
Absolutely.
What do you think the future will look like in the digital asset over the next sort of 2 to 3 years? What do you sort of trends do you see?
So I think tokenization is a key enabler, and if you look at, for example, it's not just the act of tokenization. So, and a lot of people ask me, and this is a basic question that gets asked in management meetings as well, is why tokenize? What does it do? First, it allows you to remove the intermediaries, and usually the settlement time goes from 2 to 3 days to instantaneous in most of the cases. So the operational efficiency is the biggest benefit of tokenization. And I'm just taking one use case on blockchain. There are multiple use cases. Second is, once you have tokenization, you can fractionalize the assets. And then by means of that, you're able to offer liquidity and you can get more participants in that whole area to trade. So other more banks who are, or financial institutions who are not able to do that yesterday can do it today, because you know what, the platform has been opened, the liquidity is now available to do that. But if you look at future and then without taking names again, in an ideal world, if your assets are tokenized, your mortgages are tokenized, and you have risk analytics available on that tokenized data, what you can actually do is you can do the credit analytics for liquidity positioning in one hit. You will exactly know how you can deal in a bank run scenario if something goes wrong. So I think if you look at, for example, again, there was a recent research report produced by American Bank saying tokenization would hit 16 trillions, which is highly likely. We'll see where it goes. But if the adoption continues as it is, and then if you ask yourself, on top of that adoption, what opportunities it bring? The answer is analytics and ability to then be compliant with, for example, the regulatory requirements, and also be ready essentially to handle those shocks from a liquidity perspective. So I think we are heading towards a very interesting area. And then what's happening now is, if blockchain is bringing some advantages and then bringing some more data and metadata for analysis, AI is taking it to the next level, and then probably quantum will take it to a completely different level. So the next 10, 15 years are going to be very interesting, because the blockchain is going to drive us in one trajectory. AI is going to make it much more essentially interesting.
Yeah.
And then you put quantum in play because if you look at, for example, what stops AI accelerating faster is GPUs. You just don't have enough infrastructure to scale it up at that speed.
Yeah.
But if you do that tomorrow with quantum, it will go to a completely different trajectory in terms of where we are able to go. So I'm very optimistic about future. I'm very optimistic, essentially, the combination of opportunities that will be brought by blockchain, AI, and quantum together. But what that also means is the organizations need to understand is a lot will happen outside their organizational perimeter.
Yes.
Because it would be a lot of this would be collaborative initiatives. So I also see a lot of evolution on the cloud side, particularly in terms of how a collaboration would happen in such a decentralized environment.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, and it's great actually to hear you talk about that in sort of a much more positive light. Obviously, a lot of people are getting their content from news, and a lot of the time it's generally sort of negative towards sort of digital assets and AI. So yeah, no, that's really interesting. Thank you. Okay, cool. That's great. I mean, having had such a long and established career, I mean, what other sort of career aspirations do you have, Sandip?
So I think in terms of career aspirations, what I am focused on, and it's a combination of things. One is where you land yourself in career in terms of opportunities, and that's part and parcel of having those conversations inside the organization. But also ask yourself in terms of the collaboration opportunities, and I would say mentoring and reverse mentoring both, because that also helps you in your career aspirations.
Yeah.
So, but I've had situations where I mentored someone and that individual landed somewhere, and that opened doors for me to do something else. So I think from career aspirations perspective, what I do is I don't have any set target, and that's what I've done all my career is be open to meet new people. I meet 10, 15 new people every week. I mentor a lot of people. My doors are always open for graduates or entry-level cyber experts who are trying to do something in career. What you have to keep in mind is you need to have an identity outside your organization, and that will do the magic for you in the long run in terms of whatever you want to achieve in terms of career aspirations. Because if you mentor like 5-10 people every year, in 10 years time you have 100 people who know in the industry, and then I can go back to a similar analogy in terms of coming back from India, and if you respect, and this is more probably more applicable to the UK as well, I don't know, but in India there is a paperwork, and paperwork moves from one department to another department in government office, and if you go through that chain and you give respect to everyone, understanding that the person who is moving your paperwork today will become the officer next day, that goes long way.
Yes, of course.
But that analogy applies everywhere. So have a long-term view that you're investing in an individual, whether it is mentoring them, whether it is finding them the next job. Remember, 10 years down the line, they will land somewhere where they'll remember that this person was of help to me when I was looking for help. And I'm sure gratitude rarely reciprocates, but when it reciprocates, even if you do mentor 10 people to keep in touch, that's good enough, 10, 20 year career perspective. So I think I would say aspirations, mentoring, because I truly believe that mentoring people, and it goes at all levels, by the way. I mentor executives, I mentor startup entrepreneurs, I mentor new, young graduates who are trying to get into the industry. And second is keeping in touch by means of, making sure that you make time for attending certain events or conferences where you will grow your network. And then the last is I'm very passionate about the collaboration in the industry. So something that I do across in terms of collaboration on the European financial institutions side. It's quite clear in last couple of years that the adversaries are essentially working together. If you look at a particular adversary, they'll have a very clear strategy how to target 10 financial institutions in Europe running from the same office, running the same infrastructure. But what we then have is 10 security operations, 10 threat intelligence, different providers. But everyone is saying the attack came from that IP. Well, if that is the case, how can we better organize in dismantling the adversary infrastructure?
Yeah.
And that is a key topic, and it can't be done without regulations. It's not just the financial institutions need to come together. So what we are trying to then do is focus on issues like cybercrime enforcement, how it can be done better with adequate support from law enforcement and regulations. Cyber metrics, how can we report, almost can have a uniform approach in reporting cyber metrics to the executives, because that would then simplify the cybersecurity roadmap. And I again give the COVID analogy when I'm having conversations is you can't have different treatments to the same disease.
No.
So
exactly,
you need to be
it's a good
uniform
analogy.
in dealing with certain things. So then we are also trying to focus on cyber metrics as a topic, saying can we have some uniformity as to how we are reporting cyber posture and metrics to the executives and the board. So quite a lot of collaboration going on in the industry. I think that's what I would say is driving me in terms of where I may land in future. But as I say, keep your options open. Be ready to displace. I'm a small town guy from Nasik. I went to Aurangabad, then I went to Bombay, then I went to Detroit, then I went to The Hague, then I went to London. So you better be ready to displace yourself, and you will find that your career aspirations are tackled in the long run. A lot of times I find that people get in their comfort zone, and they want like, can I have the perfect job sitting in London City, in my traveling distance? Not going to happen, buddy.
Doesn't exist.
So displacement is key to the success. I truly believe in that. And then we'll see, how I land in terms of where I land in career. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and the best of luck for the future. And I hope we get to do it again soon.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for this opportunity to share my cyber journey and share the experiences with others so that they can learn from it. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.